Hi, Jack Canfield here, back with another segment of Talking About Success. My next guest is Cindy Perlin. She's the author of The Truth About Chronic Pain Treatments, the best and worst strategies for becoming pain-free. Now, Cindy's a licensed clinical social worker, a chronic pain survivor, and one of the foremost experts in helping people in pain find safe and effective treatments. Now, how does a licensed clinical social worker go to be an expert in chronic pain? What's the story?
Well, it happened because of my own experience with chronic pain. When I was 25 years old, I was running to get in better shape, and I hurt my back. And I went to a doctor, and the doctor said, stop running, which I did, but then everything that I did after that made it worse. And I was in graduate school for social work at the time, and I was in so much pain after a while that I had to drop out of school. And I spent the next 3.5 years in terrible agony, barely functioning, and not getting any answers from the doctors. So I stumbled upon biofeedback when a friend recommended a book called Anatomy of an Illness about a man who left his way to better health after being diagnosed with a crippling chronic pain condition. And that just set me on the path of biofeedback to heal my pain. It helped me within a day. I started feeling about 50% better once I learned that I had some control over the situation and there were things that I could do. So when I eventually got into social work practice, I was very interested in helping people with their pain. And there's a huge mind-body component in pain.
Now, you shared some statistics with me before we came on air of how many people suffer from chronic pain.
100 million Americans are in chronic pain, 1.3 billion worldwide.
Now, if I'm correct, our whole population is only like 320 million people or something like that.
Right.
So it's like 1 out of 3 people
Right.
is suffering from chronic pain.
Right, and it's something that's often invisible when you look at a person, but people can be really suffering and you can't see it.
Now, you've become a champion, a really committed person to helping people figure out how to get rid of chronic pain. Why is that so important to you, and why is it so important to them?
Well, the problem is that when people go to their doctors don't know how to help them. The average doctor gets 2 hours of education about pain in medical school.
2 hours.
2 hours. And then 40% of their patients in primary care come because they're in pain. And the doctors don't know what to do with it. And for the last 20 years, the primary way of treating chronic pain has been opioids. And that's created a terrible problem because opioids are addictive, and about 25% of chronic pain patients become addicted.
My sister did. She was in an accident and became addicted to the opioids and the painkillers they prescribed to her. And I've just seen it over and over and over in my own social circles with friends and their children and so on and so forth. So what are some of the better ways to go in terms of treating chronic pain? What are some of the alternatives to opioids and all the things that people normally associate with that?
Well, there's lots of alternatives. You can come at it from a mind-body perspective. You could come at it from working directly with the body in the area in pain. There's nutritional treatments, there's herbal treatments. A good segue from going from opioids to something more natural is medical marijuana, because marijuana actually has compounds called cannabinoids that our bodies naturally produce to reduce pain. So when people start using marijuana instead of opioids, it helps with the withdrawal, helps with the cravings, and it's a much safer, more natural way to deal with pain. Nobody has ever died of a marijuana overdose.
I never heard that before, but I love it. It's so true.
Well, you know, marijuana has been around for thousands of years. It grows wild almost all over the world, and it's been used, you know, in ancient medical traditions to heal all kinds of things.
Now, in your book, you talk about a lot of different kind of options besides marijuana,
Right.
herbs. Well, just give a couple more examples so people can think about.
Well, a lot of people don't realize how much emotional stress and trauma that's happened to them in the past affects their physiology and creates pain. People who had traumatic childhoods are much more likely to end up with any chronic illness, including chronic pain. So there's some newer therapies that work on trauma. One of them is, you've talked about it, EFT, emotional freedom technique, can process your trauma so that you're not carrying it around with you anymore. What happens when you're traumatized and you don't find a way to process it is your body stays over-aroused all the time. And that creates muscle tension that's chronic, that creates fatigue, it creates inflammation, it creates all kinds of problems. So you want to process that old trauma if you're in chronic pain.
It's interesting. I grew up in a violent household and developed someone told me it's called hypervigilance, just always paying attention because I never knew what was safe and what was. My dad could go crazy any minute kind of thing. And great for being a point guard in basketball, but not great for the rest of your life, being in all that stress all the time. Very good. So why aren't patients getting these treatments? I assume part of it's what you just said, the fact that the medical school is only spending an hour or two teaching people. Are there other factors about that?
Well, I think that even when people discover that there are other options, and I can name a few other ones like physical therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture, low-level laser therapy, which is a light therapy that promotes tissue healing. Once people find out about them, the other problem is affordability because they're never covered by insurance, or in the case of chiropractic and physical therapy, not enough of it is covered by insurance to make it workable for people. So there's huge financial obstacles.
So what can be done to make sure that chronic pain patients get better care, the care they really need?
Well, I have developed a legislative proposal called the Pain Treatment Parity Act that would require insurance companies to pay for other pain therapies to the same extent that they pay for pharmaceuticals. So if they're willing to pay for pharmaceuticals for years on end, they should be willing to pay for physical therapy for as long as people need it. And then it would require them to pay for any other proven pain treatment. And that would include things like acupuncture, and it would include things like low-level laser therapy.
Very cool. And it makes sense, too, when you think about it. Like, I know, I just watched a video recently of a person that was a airline flight attendant who was tripped by some idiot in first class who was thinking he was being clever and funny. And she was in chronic pain for 8 years, couldn't work anymore. She was on disability, which was costing the government money. She was paying for meds. And with literally one treatment of EFT, pain was gone. I mean, that's how insane it is that we don't use some of these newer therapies that are less invasive, more non-addictive, and so on and so forth.
And learning EFT is a great life skill. Besides working with chronic pain, whenever something traumatic happens to you, you have it on hand, and then you don't have to carry that experience around with you. I was in Costa Rica and I almost drowned, literally, and I was really freaked out about it. And I had to spend the rest of the time I was there in and out of the water. I'd gone to swim with wild dolphins. And I was able to use the EFT to get over it and just move on and enjoy the rest of my vacation.
Very good. Okay, the truth about chronic pain treatments. I was telling her that this should probably be retitled called just like, you don't have to be in pain anymore, pain gone. It's like, just get rid of it. It's not critical. Chronic pain is such a debilitating thing. Because I know I ruptured my back, and it was like, 2 years I had chronic pain. I discovered some of the things you're talking about, was able to get rid of it. So check out her book. Now you have a website as well. Talk about that.
Right. My website is becomingpainfree.com. And if you go to my website, you can sign up for my free e-newsletter. And you can also get a free download, the 5 best self-help tools for becoming pain-free.
So go to our website, but make sure you get a copy of this book. I was leafing through this today in preparation for our interview. There is so much valuable information in here. Lots of places you can go, lots of things you don't know about that you need to know about. If you're suffering from chronic pain, or you know someone who is, like if I'd known about this from my sister years ago, this would have saved a lot of grief, a lot of financial grief as well. So check it out. Go to our website, read the book. get pain-free. Stick around. We'll be right back after this message.